Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon. It's Shirley with Spirit of Matter. We are on a soul evening, but I actually want to talk about Saturn. And as I am going through Saturn in my first house, after my Saturn maturation, after my Saturn return, I and connect with dead people. Ancestors and just dead people that are more alive to me, I guess, sometimes. And I figured that the knowledge of how to tackle your Saturn transits, especially Saturn return and Saturn maturation, is going to be very relevant for a lot of you, because we are going through times where Saturn matters. Pluto is in Saturn's sign, and Saturn is co-present with Neptune. And so we're going through times where doing your Saturn, even if it's not the malefic of sect, okay, if it's not kind of like on your team, doing a Saturn is important because it's key to the unfolding of events that are associated with the spirit of our times. That is the Pluto sextile Neptune in Aquarius and Aries. Now Neptune, but then Aries. And so this is key to unfolding when it comes to long-term things that happen in the world, long-term changes in systems, and how to tend to that in our lives. Basically, a lot of what is happening in the world right now, and is also good for kind of like the personal Saturn transits, even Sadhasati, but I'm not expert to give you all that much. So without further ado, let's get to the tips that are Saturn. And Saturn rules rocks and minerals. So it is correct to tend to the Saturn, to see where Saturn is in your chart. And you don't have to purchase the rock, especially not if it's not available for ethic purchase. But definitely invite it in energy and call on an energy of a certain rock. So let's say, like me, I have Saturn in Scorpio. I remember working with red jasper for Saturn maturation. It was highly benefic. Working with black crystals, Saturn rules the color black, highly benefic. And particularly a snowflake obsidian. I also have Pluto, and I have a cat climbing my back. It's always when I talk about Capricorn and Saturn and stuff like that. So for you need to see where your Saturn is. What does it govern? Okay, for me, the rocks were Saturn is in the 9th house. So it was very appropriate to use crystals to change my mindset and to adjust to energy and to enhance my consciousness. Okay, all of these things. The house and the sign are going to give you further clues as to what crystals. This is not the way you would use them in Vedic tradition. Okay, it simply means that I use the element of Saturn in a way that is compatible with me, and I work with it. As a person for whom Saturn is ruled by the malefic of sect, but it's not a malefic of sect, I found it to be very useful. Right now I have Saturn in my first house, and again I see myself working with my old crystals, bringing them back, wearing them on my body. I have a tiger eye right now, and this is actually, I have natally Sun opposite Saturn, so tiger eyes appropriate. And with Mercury still in Leo, it's on my hand, a bracelet. So that's interesting. And so bring in the energy of rocks. Okay, right now I also work with the energy of red beryl, and there's a video with the energy of red beryl. I will update. That is not available stone for purchase as much as I know, because it's very expensive. Although there are places where you can mine for it yourself in Utah. I haven't done that. That would be a lovely experience if I got to find something. But it is an energy that's very compatible with work. It's satanic ritual abuse, sexual ritual misbrauch, and so on, misbrauch abuse, and so on. Great energy that does wonders, even just by calling the energy. You don't have the crystal with me. So first of all, Saturn rules rocks. Okay, this is where you can begin to join that to your life. Saturn rules rest more than it rules work. And this is something that Western society really need to get correctly, and sometimes even Eastern, depending on which, on which. Because Saturn rules not the type of work where you overwork yourself. It is rule the type of work that is efficient. And for that you need to rest enough so that you, when you come into action, you're competent, you don't have to act to overreact, and you don't have to overdo yourself. And you do what you need to do, not more, not less, so that you will get the result you want to get. Okay? And this is very different from our thinking, and it takes Saturn years to cultivate. I've been struggling with that for a lot, with having soul opposite Saturn. And I'm still refining that in me. So rest is highly important. And I can say by a founder, a conversation that I had when I was homeless, actually. I just went into a mattress shop and I said, I need to rest. So I sat a little bit for like I'm watching for the beds and so on. I had a conversation with the person. It was the founder of the entire store of mattresses. It's like a big brand. And he started when he was a young person with $20 in the US, made connections and so on. He said to me something very true. Good sleep is not the mattress that you buy. It is doing the right thing. If you do the right thing, you have a good night's sleep. And it's something I keep with me. Because Saturn is rest. So you have to do the right thing, then you get a good rest, but you also get good energy. This is why Saturn rules karma. Is, have you been doing the right things? If not, what is there to fix and change? This is Saturn. It's not about punishing you. It is not about draining you. Okay? It is about changing your life. Well, what have your actions accumulated to? Changing your life so that you have a good reset, not the reset that's rested upon you from people that don't know you, that even if they had your best interest in mind, they have no idea who you are and what is your interest, no matter how much data they gather, let alone when they don't even care about your interest. Okay? Let alone where they even don't have your best interest in mind. So Saturn would give you a good reset. And when you have Saturn transit, this is a reset. I have Saturn in my first house, and I'm learning how to holistically regain of my energy. Okay, I'm 40 years old. Regain of my energy in a way where I can dedicate it to right things, right time. Okay, say no to what I need to say no to. rest when I need to rest, I say yes to what I need to say yes to, and act on it. That's how you get a good night's sleep. So that is the karma aspect of Saturn. It's the I know I need to tend to it, I know I need to tend to it, I know I need to, or you didn't even know you need to tend to it if it's like your 12th house. So you tend to it. It's difficult because it's changing your nervous system and your bone structure. Think about the health of your nails. It's fine, but when you have something in your nail that's stagnant, then you begin to have this itchiness. There's something fungal grows. By this time, that has been at least for a couple of years in your body and your soul, and there's stagnant situation in your life that you need to tend to step by step, so it's going to take some years. And so the nails, okay, with the hair or the teeth, it takes some time, because it's Saturn's karma. It's not punishment, but also to tend to these things, you connect with ancestors as well. And you get the wisdom of the ancestor. You can set intention. You can look at your teeth, say, which is more yellow? I want to connect with these ancestors and receive knowledge from them. I asked for this today, and I found myself talking on Facebook, and I speak with someone, and just warmly I said, they talked about investments, Saturn, stocks, bonds, and I talked about SPF and so on. I say, but speaking, this is just a way of kind of like Hebrew slang. It's like, and you mentioned the name of my grandmother, but not of my grandmother, the mother of my grandmother or of my grandfather. And I said her name, and I said that was murdered in the Holocaust. And then I said, well, we are invested in the same thing that perpetuated these Holocausts, and we do it for the children. Okay? But as I asked today, I looked at my teeth and I say, as these teeth are more yellow, I want to connect with these ancestors. Then that happened. This is another way in which you can tend to the Saturn and to the health of your teeth. You will receive a lot. When I have been tending to my teeth since Saturn maturation, Saturn return, I removed the what you need to remove from your teeth. The Saturn return. And then I went to I was already in university and so on and this and that. The Saturn maturation, it happened in my 12th house. I had way more to do, and I learned all about the holistic view and the fluoride in the water and the toxins and the connection to World War II and the Manhattan Project that my beloved Feynman that tried to tell us about the teeth, and I didn't get him, and holistic view of tending to the teeth, and the difficulty to get a good doctor, and the fact that they sabotage the teeth and how it's bad for their teeth as well. So many things about teeth, but I said, okay, for what to do now, and I learned to make toothpaste which is natural for my teeth, and to connect with ancestors, and I'm still not done. And connection between the heart, the teeth, the nervous system. I was like, oh my God, so many things. And this is a part of Saturn. It doesn't take you the shortcut. With Mars, sometimes you need to sever ties, and unless you have heavy Mars-Saturn aspects, it's not going to take too long. You need to sever ties. Okay, you need to get fit. You need to change something. If it's Mars-related, you're just going to do it. A window opens, something moves in Aries and you get fit and you get, punching and you get, really in shape. But when it's Saturn, it's going to take you through the steps where people in modern society would ask you, are you waiting for forests to grow here? But the answer is yes. This is the planet that rules the forests that are growing or not growing, and it takes you through the foundation of something that you're building. That's why you're having these transits, so that your foundations are going to be compatible. Okay, Saturn also rules homeless people, people in poverty, and people that are elderly. All of these are Saturn. And so to communicate, this is a time in your life where also dead people, yes, you may have connection with the dead. You may have, yes, oh, that shows big time. You may have a connection with elderly people that's proven more meaningful. You get information from elderly people. You may have connection with homeless people. It's advised, the things I learned from homeless people that nobody told me but these people. And so all of those are assisting you with this. It requires maturation, and maturation is both simplicity but the ability to contain a lot of intricate things. And it is one of the planets that is less, it gives you less leverage, because when you need to be solid rock, or you need to think about a tree, the trunk needs to grow big enough to hold all these leaves, an evergreen tree. It takes for years and years until you gather this solidity that is also flexible enough to carry all the nutrients within. So solidity and flexibility. The nervous system takes 6 months to change. Yeah. One of the supportive planets is Mercury, which is both ruling the skin, the nervous system, and even the hair, and is a planet where it's associated with trying new things. So this is also benefic, to bring in some mercurial tendency to try this, to try that, is also very benefic, to remove that stagnation with Saturn. So Mercury and Saturn, the working way that you try something new, and then you're building up on these trial and error into a foundation that actually lasts. More things to do with this Saturn. Said Saturn rules investments, bonds, stocks, debts, and the leverage that you get from these. So it's about getting in debt, but also leveraging from debt. And Saturn again rules affliction, rules karma. And here it is interesting. There's the wisdom of tending to things by acting, and there is the wisdom of inaction. Both of them are wisdoms you need to encompass when you do Saturn. Again, rest and tending. Rest and tending. Saturn also rules time. And here is the teaching of take the time to make the time. And this is one of the things that I've been practicing in my life that has been one of the most yielding investments that I have made in my life is the investment of time. To take the time to make the time. If I take a look at the skill that I have of astrology, that I'm not even the greatest astrologer alive, okay? For most of my colleagues, they know more about astrology than me. That being said, my accuracy of description and remediation and whenever possible prediction, yes, blows people's mind away. Because I like this and I take the time to make the time. When I talk about tending to topics that no one tends to in my surrounding, definitely not successfully, like satanic ritual abuse, I take the time to make the time. It's not in 1 year. It's a journey that throughout a decade of working in diverse sectors that were available for me, I began to practice more, but to practice more, but to practice more. So I take the time to make the time. When I was homeless, I took the time. It was very difficult. Every day I thought I was going to die. I was channeling to design for what my desired home is. To go, even in COVID, to go to shops that were open, that were selling things for a home. To look at houses in Amsterdam North, in Amsterdam South. To look at examples of houses. To go to Makler, say I manifest my next home. To look at floating houses, which is the most expensive in Netherlands because they have floods. That was when Saturn was going to my 12th house, squaring Uranus. And I got so many channelings of how the people, when they grow the children, they would take them to these places and they would show them, here, this is what you need to think of, this is what you need to think of. And I would get these channelings. What I know, a lot of it is channelings. Whether it's living people, dead people. Because they take the time to make the time. And then they tell everybody that they must work very, very hard. Usually you make money with money. Money is something that you make with money. For now, the question is how to clear economy from expandable children. For me, something I tend to. Saturn is also responsibility and resilience. Now, responsibility can only be taken when you make choice, not Hobbesian choice, not gaslighting of choice. For that you say, I do not consent. That I took from Dee in the Imagination podcast. I do not consent. Choice. And I give you a concrete example of choice. Last month I invested in making a certain talisman, and I used essential oils, and aside of that I made a body oil for myself for to use, because I love the scent so much. And when you make talisman, you have to wait at least 1 lunar cycle for it's closed. You don't have to, but for it to be, to become, you allow it to birth. And so I made for myself something that I enjoy for the meantime. It's not talismanic. Naturally, yes, I told you for what my income is in all the videos. I live on welfare. Alchemizing the wealth of the people who earned it by sacrificing children, to dedicating my time and my creation to abolish for this practice. I'm using every bit of privilege that I have in favor of myself and the world. Is the one thing that changes everything, because when we build such foundations, so many businesses would be able to thrive, and we have true wealth, because you will get business that yields, and the energy blockages from both, like the nuclear wars and so on, but also from the wealth of creation would be dissolved. So for me, it's what I tend to. It's the one thing that changes everything. But this is my Pluto Mercury, things like this. And so I knew that there's no money for food. There is whatever I manage to have from, let's say, there's environmental fridge, or what I have when I go in some restaurant, somebody finishes the food and there's a plate where the food it didn't touch, then I can eat that. And it sounds, oh my God, but if I'm entrepreneur and there's some more conditions, the same privilege that I have this food. I'm privileged where I can do and invest and do something unusual with my money, because I don't feel bad, because I made choice. This is choice I made already. Because there are many ways I could have invested in my business. I make choice for it to make it like this. And then when I go around, supposedly looking for my next meal, I also enjoy the places I see, or the people I see, or the road, because I left me money to travel a little bit. That's choice. And for this choice, I can take a responsibility. Because I dedicated, let's say I could make small talisman with little oils, with little this, and pick the rest and then have money for food for the rest of the month. No, I made choice to put my heart and soul in it and allow things to be. And this is choice I can say I can take responsibility for. And I also receive help, also receive channeling, also receive a place where I go and suddenly, twice when I go to the same place, there is somebody that left a plate of food there, that untouched. It's like a miracle. This is when you make choice. Saturn can take you through the process of not to call what is not choice, choice. Think about sex, will and consent. Okay? For the Saturn Tauruses, for the Saturn Scorpios, or Saturn Venus, Saturn Mars, or Saturn ruler of the fifth, or if Saturn is ruling your fifth. Yes? Will and consent is when we have choice. Who was not willing consent is not choice. So say, I do not consent. Many people now on a structural level try to take people through this place where if they don't have the I do not consent, if they don't have the the I do not consent, the willing consent value sitting pretty, okay, and we all have more to do with that. We all have more embodiment of this to do. Then they can find themselves taking responsibility for something they're not responsible for, which is setting themselves up to not be committed and to not stand in the commitment, or, God forbid, to stand in commitment that you shouldn't be doing, like commit crimes. Or be held accountable for things they did when they genuinely did not have choice. Think about expendable children. Most the leaders, most the singers, most the public figures are bankers, are psychiatrists, the people you go to when you need help. But those people, most of them are the expendable children grown. So they went torture and violence since childhood. They never got to make choice, but they've been consistently told that they need to take responsibility. This is why we have all these gaslighting paradigms around us. And so Saturn is also the place for when you identify what's will and consent, you take responsibility, you could identify opportunities to make choice. And there's where you have dedication. When I started studying in university, I didn't know where will I get food. But I say I make choice. I want to go somewhere. I want to do something. I love studying. So let's do some certification, do something with myself that I enjoy. And it's also a form of retreat. Saturn ruling my 12th house. And good for my mental health. I made choice. I did not have enough food. I had addiction to coffee because I did not have enough. But I learned about nutrition and absorption and all these things for trying different things. And then when I had second degree, I had more money. I was working as TA. Then I invested in different types of food and trying different things. And I had basically created a lot of things that happen as a result of me not being nourished, which is what we call eating disorder. It's basically people not being nourished physically and, of course, psychologically, mentally, spiritually. I can sense where there was a place there that I made choice that I really wanted was to study. I said, take responsibility for that choice. Saturn allows you to identify, hey, this was not a choice. I do not consent. Or Saturn will end the things that were not a choice. Relationships, careers, contracts of any kind, investments. What was not choice, it will swipe away. Saturn can do that. This is when people get problems with their career or get fired from their jobs or lose certain money they invested for so-and-so, just wanted to be secure, and so on. And this is where Saturn can take you to these places. And this is why Saturn transits are usually difficult, but they also put you on a path where you actually harvest from the yield. You learn, you try. Where am I committed? As a person, that only commitment I ever had this long term was astrology. again, aromatherapy and, of course, screenwriting back in the days. And astrology is connected to Neptune, but also to Uranus. Neptune is surrender, and Uranus is the it just happened. It's the it just happened planet. And that's my relation with astrology. It just happened. Not through certification, not through a big progress, not to have a degree for something else. It just happened. I was studying aromatherapy, which I love, and I still do this astrology-related stuff with that. And I thought, on the way, let's make some money from astrology, what I can, and offered very tiny products with tiny price. This still respects the market, so not to get people out of business because of that. And I thought this is until I get my certification. But it just happened. And what I do with astrology, it just happened. Okay, I was in Netherlands, homeless, trying channeling experiment, learned about that there are the freeze, journalist of cold cases, came back and I had this idea of water expands upon cooling, and I said, well, and so, and who am I, and no. But of course, it just happened. Long story short, it just happened. And then, 12, 13 episodes later, I'm season 1 of Water Expands Upon Cooling. And that's Uranus. The Uranus transits will give you that. And they're not easy. It just happened can be a sudden affair that you have when you declared I'm monogamous. Or the other way around, when you declared the opposite. And both can change, because this Uranus, it's the silly walk. We're talking about Saturn now. And Saturn is a bit less interesting than Uranus in that sense. It simply means that you are strategic and methodic, unless you have Saturn-Uranus in direct connections like I do, which is through Jupiter, and then you're like, me, commitment, dedication, and then astrology, things just happened. So Saturn, but Saturn has a rigid way. It has a rigid way in a sense that you either do what you came here to do, you have your dreams realized, or Saturn is going to nudge you in certain ways where you either do what you came here to do, what you're actually passionate about, and this is why Saturn is dedication. Or it will nudge you in some way. So you would lose that job that you took only to be secure, or that investment that you did for the children, because the owner of the company got exposed for a pedophilia ring scandal. October eclipse with Lilith. Ketu. This October, yes. It's close. Or you lose that social group that you relied on, and so on. Or this type of housing, or this type of belief or religious group. And Saturn just wipes it away. Before I studied in university, I had the best job that a degreeless person can have. And of course, being me, it was not enough. And I made a mess because I couldn't deal with things. It's like, hey, if we all have knowledge in programming, why do we have a 1 million shekels program running on a password that is 111111, and if you, God forbid, lose the disk on key, but the drivers pay fee because we can't freaking proof the program? Why can't we have a look at it? As an editor, I knew that you need another pair of eyes. Then imagine programming and QA. Oh, I cannot. I cannot. And